The following program, The Russ Belville Show, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate to the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate any illegal activity and encourage all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers on The Russ Belville Show are their own, and The Russ Belville Show cannot be held legally responsible for their validity or reliability. Viewer discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think that we need to rethink and decriminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Yeah, I hear you had a question for me.
Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Oh, yes, good day, tokers and tokettes, and welcome. We are back, and it is Tuesday, March 19th, 2013, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. So glad you could make it. We are back from the ATL. I was in Atlanta, Georgia for the past weekend at the Southern Cannabis Reform Conference, representing with the Prohibition is Still Not Working t-shirt. Had a great time. Sharon Ravert from Peachtree Normal and all the volunteers there made such a wonderful event. And I got to say, it's the first time I've ever gone to an event. You know, I've crashed on a lot of couches before doing this activism. It's the first time I've ever gotten a card to welcome to our home to crash at the Ravert household. And this wonderful Radical Russ note, hope you're doing well, blah, blah, blah. Very nice. Thank you so much. The Southern hospitality is not a rumor. It is absolutely true. It was a beautiful time, and we're going to tell you all about it on today's show. For our daily Toker Tunes today, I know it's Electric Tuesday, but we're going to kind of back up a day and do some Roots Monday music because Chief Greenbud was there, along with Chip, his lead guitar player and musical arranger. It was a great duo. They performed for the VIP party at the Southern Cannabis Reform Conference in Atlanta. I'm going to give you a double shot of Chief Greenbud with I Just Want to Get High and The Drug Bust done live at the conference. Also on today's show, we're going to show you in the Radical Rant some highlights from the news. I'm telling you, it was so successful that this was covered on the evening news in Atlanta, 5 o'clock news on CBS, ABC, and Fox. I've got video from CBS and ABC Atlanta. We're going to show those to you here in the Radical Rant today. Plus, I'll give you my rundown on some of the other stuff that went down for the Southern Cannabis Reform Conference. For today's show at half past the hour, we're going to get into a cannabis community chat. We've got the author of Drugs, Crime, and Violence, a new book from trafficking to treatment from Howard Rotz. And he is a LEAP speaker and a former Cincinnati Police Department officer. So he'll talk about his experiences, and we'll talk about this book, which you can pick up on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. Plus, on today's show, we've got to catch up on some headlines. Lots of news went down over the previous week. We're going to catch up with the most recent headlines and talk a little bit about some of that news in Behind the Headlines as well. And in Toker Talk Radio today, we've got the video of the drug test. That's right, we gave him a drug test. It was Leap versus Normal. You got to check out and see who won. Did Leap, Normal, or was it the man? All that coming up next on the Russ Belville Show.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
I'm Sub Cool from Team Green Avenger. At TGAgenetics.com, we are working on the leading edge of medical strains. Our strains are rigorously tested for THC, CBD, THCV, and other critical cannabinoids. Know your grow. Check out our genetic diversity at TGAgenetics.com. the home of Jelly Bean, Jack the Ripper, Vortex, and other award-winning cannabis strains.
Now it's time for your 420 Radio News for Tuesday, March 19th, 2013. I'm Russ Belville. Oregon lawmakers consider legalizing and taxing marijuana as pot advocates ponder 2014 ballot initiative. It's from OregonLive.com. State lawmakers scrounging for money for schools, mental health, and public safety could find the solution to their funding woes to be green. Not more cold, hard cash, but pot. Legalize it and tax it. That's the plan under House Bill 3371, which is scheduled for an April 2nd public hearing in the House Judiciary Committee. The bill would allow the production, processing, and sale of marijuana and marijuana-infused products. Individuals 21 or older would be allowed to keep 6 mature marijuana plants and 24 ounces of marijuana at a time, the same amounts allowed under the Oregon Medical Marijuana Act. Under the bill, the Oregon Health Authority would be charged with licensing marijuana producers, processors, wholesalers, and retailers. The Oregon Liquor Control Commission would oversee taxation of marijuana, according to the bill. Marijuana producers would be taxed at $35 per ounce. The money would go to a cannabis tax account, with 40% of proceeds going to schools and 20% each to Oregon State Police, the General Fund, and Services for Mental Health, Alcoholism, and Drugs. The bill would go into effect July 1st, 2014. Measure would decriminalize marijuana in Nevada. This from the Reno Gazette-Journal. Nevadans would be able to buy marijuana for recreational use under a bill introduced in the Nevada Assembly that also seeks to tax pot to fund education. The bill sets up a framework for marijuana to be grown and sold with a 25% excise tax charged at both the wholesale and retail level. Money raised from the tax would go to the state distributed school account that funds K-12 education. The measure would make it legal for people 21 and older to possess up to 1 ounce of marijuana for private consumption. Boxer Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.'s marijuana use is safer than alcohol, this according to a billboard placed by the Marijuana Policy Project. Boxer Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. got a $900,000 fine and 9 months suspension for testing positive for marijuana, and this is the subject of a new billboard unveiled in Las Vegas today, reports Smell the Truth at SanFranciscoGate.com. According to the National Legalization Lobby Marijuana Policy Project, the billboard decries the Nevada State Athletic Commission's punishment of Chavez Jr. for using pot, as Chavez prepares to file a lawsuit challenging the huge fine. The nation's largest marijuana policy organization paid for the advertisement and calls on NSAC to drop the penalties and stop driving athletes to drink. New York Police Department spent 1 million hours making 440,000 marijuana possession arrests over the last decade. This from Huffington Post. The New York Police Department spent 1 million hours making 440,000 arrests for low-level marijuana possession charges between 2002 and 2012, according to a new report released Tuesday, just as legislative leaders in Albany are deciding whether to pass a bill reforming drug laws. The Drug Policy Alliance and the Marijuana Arrest Research Project, pro-drug law reform groups that commissioned the report, said its findings show a huge waste of police resources. The drug reform proposal from Governor Andrew Cuomo would decriminalize small amounts of marijuana in public view. Possessing 25 grams or less of marijuana kept out of sight is currently a violation, subject to a $100 penalty in New York State. In 2012, according to the report, the NYPD made 39,218 low-level possession arrests. The report assumed police spent an average of 2.5 man-hours on such arrests, amounting to 98,045 hours in 2012. Maryland Senate okays fine for small amounts of marijuana from CBS Baltimore. The Maryland Senate has voted to eliminate potential jail time for people who possess less than 10 grams of marijuana. The Senate voted 30-16 on Tuesday for the measure, which would fine people $100 in civil court if they possess the equivalent of about 2 joints or less. Supporters say the measure will save the state money by relieving the strain such crimes put on the criminal justice system. Opponents worry that decriminalization could increase drug use among youth. Marijuana training program approved in Colorado from the Denver Post. A marijuana proposal aimed at training people who work in medical marijuana businesses awaits the governor's pen in Colorado. This would create a responsible medical marijuana vendor designation. The optional designation would allow pot shops to train employees in state marijuana regulation and how to spot fake marijuana cards. In exchange, businesses could get a break if they run afoul of state regulations. And that's your 420 Radio News for Tuesday, March 19th, 2013. I'm Russ Belville. When we come back, we're going to go behind the headlines and take a look at New Jersey signing a law on banning synthetic cannabinoids. This is the Russ Belville Show on 420radio.org. We'll be right back after this.
Medical marijuana right for you? When you are stricken by an illness, injury, or disability, you deserve to live your life as free from pain and suffering as possible. Modern medical researchers have developed some amazing pharmaceutical drugs, but these may not be the best solution for you. At Alternative Medical Choices, we help collect your medical records history and provide a physician's review and examination to help you qualify for the use of medical marijuana in Oregon and Washington State. Call 971-270-0262 or visit altmedchoices.com for more information and to schedule an appointment today. Alternative Medical Choices, because you deserve the best in healthcare.
When I was in England, I experimented with marijuana a time or two, and I didn't like it, and didn't inhale, and never tried it again.
I think you'd probably be a lot cooler if you had, Mr. President.
Said, hey, do you have a joint, kid? Sure would be a lot cooler if you did. Lie, don't hide it. Lie, don't hide it. Oh, lie, don't hide it. Lie, don't hide it. Just lie, don't hide it. Fire it up right now.
All right, time for us to go behind the headlines. And the other day, Governor Chris Christie out in New Jersey signed a new law that bans synthetic cannabinoids. And we've been talking about this many times. The synthetic cannabinoids, of course, are your spice, K2, these things that are they're sold as herbal incense, and they usually have a label on them that'll say not for human consumption. And what they are is a dubious collection of plants that are sprayed down with synthetic cannabinoids. These are cannabinoids made in a laboratory by tweaking a molecule here or there and creating a whole new way of tripping our endocannabinoid system. In fact, as a little tangent, I got into a wonderful conversation with a guy who's going to be known forever to me as Synthetic Tim. I actually met a young man in Atlanta who regularly uses synthetic cannabinoids. We got to talking about spice and K2, and he does so because, of course, there's drug testing for the real thing. There's drug testing for real marijuana. So, but he was very intelligent. He said, I didn't want to risk my health by trying something I hadn't researched. So he researched these synthetic cannabinoids, the JWH line, the HU line. I mean, this guy had such knowledge about cannabinoids that even I was, tell me more, taking notes, listening to him. And he spoke a lot about how the synthetic cannabinoids were designed for two reasons. Number one is because scientists couldn't get the real thing. So they had to design something they could do their work with. And then number two, these things that are designed in a lab are oftentimes designed to agonize that receptor far, far more than the natural agonist would. By the way, when we say agonize, that means to cause the physiological change. You have these CB1 and CB2 receptors that are all throughout your organs and your brain and your body, and that's how the cannabinoids affect us. That's how we get high off THC. We have some receptors in our brain, and THC happens to trip those. That's how CBD helps a lot for pain, because we have those kind of receptors, CB2 receptors, that CBD works a lot on. So this whole endocannabinoid system is what, the cannabis has been working on. When they design these synthetic cannabinoids, they design them in such a way to trip that system faster and harder. That's not really a perfect analogy, but if you can get my drift, they're supercharged, if you will. So when you're taking this spice or this K2, number one, you're suffering from the fact that you don't know which one or combination of synthetic cannabinoids they're putting on this stuff. Number two, you don't know how much of it they're putting on this stuff. And he was telling me tales of some of these synthetic cannabinoids that can literally induce like a catatonic state where you can't move, you get trembles, and others that induce, severe psychosis and paranoia. And so this isn't, anything to be messing around with. But the problem is, of course, it's not regulated. It's not measured in any sort of way. Now, this has caused a lot of headlines of the fake pot and the kids going to emergency room, like some 12,000 reports of people going to emergency rooms for synthetic pot. Never mind the fact that there's many, many, many more than that are going to emergency rooms for marijuana, but marijuana doesn't kill anybody. And far more, in the millions of emergency room visits for prescription drugs and alcohol. So to get some perspective, 12,000, while it sounds like a lot, across the entire country for a year, it's not that many. So, but nevertheless, let's not ignore the fact that these synthetic cannabinoids, being that they're unregulated, they're unmeasured, and they are of varying potencies and effects on different CB1 and CB2 receptors, that makes it something we need to worry about. The problem comes with the prohibitionist mindset. The mindset of people like Chris Christie and the New Jersey legislature who rushed out and created this ban on synthetic pot. And here's where it gets scary, folks, because when you really look deep into this law, they didn't ban just synthetic pot. They banned tripping your endocannabinoid system. They banned a physiological process in your body. Let me get to it. This is very interesting because the way the synthetic cannabinoid thing has been working, it's been kind of like an arms race, right? They'll put out JWH-018, one particular molecule, and the kids will get high on that, and the legislature go, oh, we got to ban JWH-018. So the next chemist comes out with HU-210, puts that on some leaves. Oh, we got to ban HU-210. So they ban each individual molecule, and of course there's so many. I mean, there should be a clue when they call it JWH-018, they're using 3 digits, that there's a whole lot of them out there, right? So this has always been the problem in the laws before, is you couldn't ban a specific one of these cannabinoids, these synthetic cannabinoids, because then they just come out with the next one, right? Just be an arms race. So some laws went further and banned the ways that you could tweak that molecule. Okay, now we're getting down to the chemistry here. And in fact, the New Jersey law has that as well. It has a very extensive list, and you can find this list at my blog at radicalruss.com. But they went through and banned all the naphtholindols, the naphthylmethylindols, the naphtholinpyrols, the naphthylmethylindines, the phenylacetylindole, the cyclohexylphenols, the benzolifcols, and the adamantoylindols. Adamantoylindols, is that like Wolverine? I don't know how this works. But anyway, there it is. There's a list of like every different like part of a tweak you could make on a molecule or a bond or an atom here or there. Every possible way you could tweak a synthetic cannabinoid to trip your receptors in your brain, right? But here's where New Jersey has really reached into the whole Big Brother overreach. This is their catch-all language at the end of the law. They are banning, quote, any other synthetic chemical compound that is a cannabinoid receptor agonist and mimics the pharmacological effect of naturally occurring cannabinoids that is not listed in Schedule 2 through 5 or is not an FDA-approved drug. New Jersey just banned any cannabinoid receptor agonist that mimics the effects of naturally occurring cannabinoids. They just banned using artificial means to do something to your own body. And this is kind of bothering me a little bit because they're not banning something based on what it is. Now they're banning something based on what it does. Okay? And this is a little frightening. If this sounds frightening to you, imagine it in another highly charged political argument, like, say, banning anything that projects metal slugs at a high rate of velocity that would kill people. And imagine the uproar that we would get from this. And because it's spice and because it's K2, I don't think people are putting a whole lot of attention to it because it's such an evil, bad thing. But I think we really need to watch out about laws that ban anything that mimics what our own body chemistry does. Speaking of mimicking our own body chemistry.
Yeah, I think my endocannabinoid system could use a little boost.
I think so too. Time for a supplement. We'll be right back with your Daily Toker Tunes, Chief Greenbud from the Atlanta Conference.
Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
Hi, I'm Cannabis.
Non-alcohol.
Do you know that I can be used to treat a number of physical and psychological conditions like depression, Huntington's disease, and osteosclerosis?
Your mother's an osteoporosis.
I can also be used to help those who are abusing our friend over here.
You know what the problem is with you? You think you're better than everybody else. Hey, look at me, I'm weak.
Okay, I actually do prefer to be called Cannabis. I'm illegal.
I'm illegal, because weed makes you stupid.
I am not a stoner. I am nothing you've heard. I'm you. We may not be happy with the world that we live in. Politicians who believe in criminalization, making deals with big pharma, and trading big money behind the scenes is not a way to stay in office. I will go to bat for you. I will go to Burning Man and smoke my brains out. I'm Terry Joyce, and I approve this message. I'm you.
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Electric Tuesday, featuring the latest in electronic dance music and other cutting-edge genres. You can get downloads and more information about all our Daily Toker Tunes by visiting music.radicalruss.com. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tunes.
All right, we're making a change here. We're not going to do an Electric Tuesday, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, because my good friend Chief Greenbud was just down in Atlanta, and we had such a good time out there. And we realized that this is our fourth of all 50 states. We're going to make the Russ Belville Chief Greenbud incidental appearance tour. We just happen to be at the same gigs, right? We've done a gig together in Portland, Oregon. We've done Nashville, Tennessee. We've done San Antonio, Texas. And now we've done Atlanta, Georgia. So if you happen to book both of us at the same gig, that would be a big help. We're trying to get all 50 states. And what's fun about it, too, is every time we go to some great eats, whatever city we're in. And in Atlanta, we got to go to Mary Mac's Tea Room. Tea Room is apparently Southern for restaurant. So we went to Mary Mac's Tea Room, and it was very nice. I had a fried pork chop and collard greens and cream corn and green. It was just wonderful. And Big Daddy Fink, he lives in Smyrna, and he took me to a joint there, a Thompson Brothers barbecue. Had a Hot Links barbecue sandwich. It was just wonderful. So great eats and great fun in Atlanta, Georgia. We're going to be covering and bringing you video and stories all week long here to recount the first Southern Cannabis Reform Conference. Huge success. Like I said, got news coverage, ABC, CBS, and Fox. And, of course, Chief Greenbud was there as well. And his musical arranger and lead guitar player, Chip, was there as well. Got to hear them as a duo. So we've got 2 songs we're going to give to you here for our Daily Toker tunes for today. I Just Want to Get High, and then we'll follow that up with The Drug Bust. Seemed like that should be the order they should go in. Here, enjoy from Atlanta, Georgia, in the Spring Forth Center. This is Chief Greenbud.
Just want to get high. Get into that. Hold on. Let me have sex with my sister real quick. It's a West Virginia joke. Okay, it's really not a joke. But that's another story for another time and another conference, I believe. Well, I was sitting in my living room, sparking up the phone. You won't believe what happened next. With the cops came down my door, with their guns waving in the air. I thought I'd best say a little prayer, and I knew something just wasn't right. They pulled me from my chair. They said it was a drug bust. I got the feeling it was unjust. I said, I think you got the wrong thug out. I only smoked the stuff. He threw me down on the ground, so I asked him for a reach around. Well, I may as well get jerked off, 'cause it looks like I'm getting fucked. He took my little bag of weed and the $20 I had. I said, if I was selling reefer, don't you think there'd be more stash? Then he told me to shut my mouth. He was gonna look around, and then he said, look who wears the badge, boy. Look who's going downtown. He said it was a drug bust. I got the feeling it was unjust. I said, I know you got the wrong fella. I only smoke the stuff. He threw me down on the ground. So I asked him for a reach around. May as well get jerked off, 'cause it looks like I'm getting fucked. Well, officer, explain to me. I don't know why this has to be. Now you're talking felony. I can't believe you can't see there's only one thing guaranteed. There's no crime in smoking weed. He said the law would disagree, and then he put the cuffs on me. He said it was a drug bust. I got the feeling it was unjust. I said, I know you got the wrong fella, 'cause I only smoke the stuff. He took me down on the ground, so I asked him for a reach around. May as well get jerked off, 'cause it looks like I'm getting fucked. Yeah, may as well.
Georgia. Hi, this is Willie Nelson, and I need your help. Alcohol prohibition didn't work in the 20s, and marijuana prohibition isn't working today. It's time we stop arresting law-abiding citizens because they prefer marijuana over alcohol. Nearly 2,000 Americans are arrested every day on marijuana charges. We're unfairly destroying the lives and careers of hundreds of thousands of people each year simply because they smoke marijuana. These are not criminals. They're average citizens like you, good neighbors who work hard, raise families, pay taxes, and contribute to their communities. We need your help to end marijuana prohibition once and for all. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
The cannabis community includes a diverse set of activists and nonprofits working to end the prohibition of marijuana. We take the time to hear the stories of reform on the Russ Belville Show's Cannabis Community Chat.
Welcome back, everybody. 32 after the hour, and I'm pleased to have on the show today the author of this great new book, Drugs, Crime, and Violence, From Trafficking to Treatment. It's Howard Rotz, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Is that correct, Howard?
That's correct. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you for being here. And I understand your background is retired Cincinnati Police Department. And now you've got this book out, Drugs, Crime, and Violence. And can you give our listeners just a quick overview of what they can learn from getting this book?
Well, first, it might be good for people to know that I'm kind of unique, maybe in the country. I'm one of the few people who's worked on both sides of the drug equation. I spent 18 years working in the addictions field, and then at age 42, I became a Cincinnati police officer and spent 18 years with the Cincinnati Police Department. So I'm one of the few people who's been kind of on both sides of this thing.
That's really good to hear, because I think one of the things we miss out in these policy discussions is understanding the exact nature of drugs, drug use, and what exactly our goal should be. Is it to reduce all drug use or to reduce drug harms? And you go into that a little bit in the book, and through your experiences of working with people with serious addictions, how do you feel that impacts the policies that we're trying to implement here with respect to drugs?
Well, one of the very major points I'm trying to make in the book is to provide treatment to people that are addicted to drugs. My interest in this whole thing, or my major concern, is the violence that's associated with the illegal drug market. And whether we're talking about violence on the Mexican border, which to say it's out of control is probably understating it, or the violence in cities like Cincinnati, Dayton, Columbus, Chicago, New York, every city in this country is afflicted by drug-related violence. So my purpose in writing the book is to try to present some way that we can suppress that violence. And the number one step, in my opinion, is legalization of marijuana.
So when you look at marijuana in the drug policy equations, do you separate it out as an outlier, something completely different than dealing with meth, coke, or heroin, for example?
I do. I mean, the RAND Corporation did a study and said that 90% of what we refer to as the various drug problems are caused by heroin, cocaine, crack, and methamphetamine. Marijuana is the most frequently used illegal drug, but it's the one that causes us the fewest problems.
There are people on the other side of us, from at least my position of legalizing marijuana, known as Project Sam, who just say that, trying to take marijuana out of the cartels isn't going to really hurt them that much. They'll just go and sell other drugs. How does your experience inform your opinion on that? I mean, it seems to me that you just can't manufacture hard drug addicts.
Well, I think that's absolutely wrong. First off, the marijuana is the cartel's cash cow. It's their number one revenue producer. It's estimated that 60% of the revenue that supports these killers comes from sales of marijuana. So when we take marijuana and move it out of the illegal drug market into a regulated, controlled marketplace, we've in one fell swoop taken 60% of the revenue from these guys. You're familiar with business operations, and most of us think about how could many businesses survive losing 60% of their revenue. It'd be very difficult for them.
But these opponents will come back and say that it really wouldn't eliminate them because they could still keep growing and try to undercut whatever taxed scheme we might set up in a legal society, and that also it's going to be a while before all 50 states legalize. So how do we address that when they bring that up?
Well, here's my answer to that. And people, I've heard that argument that they'll continue to sell marijuana even when it's legal because maybe they can produce it cheaper. And as you listen to that argument, ask yourself, when's the last time you knew somebody who drank bathtub gin? People will not. If they've got a legal product that they can buy down the street, that they have some confidence in, that has some quality control measures, that's what they're going to choose to do. They're going to use the legal product. And you're right about the 50 states. The interesting thing about the end of marijuana prohibition is that it's going to look like the end of alcohol prohibition when the federal government gets its big nose out of this business. And the 10th Amendment to the Constitution says all those things not specifically enumerated fall back to the people, the states. So every state will have to come up with some regulatory mechanism. The people in that state are going to have to make a decision about how they want to handle marijuana. And I just point out that alcohol is still illegal in a significant percentage of the country. And I would expect the same kind of pattern to follow with marijuana.
We're speaking with Howard Rotz. He's the author of this book, Drugs, Crime, and Violence, From Trafficking to Treatment. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the treatment side as well. I get frustrated a little bit by the reliance on drug courts to deal with marijuana so-called crimes. And my fear is that we end up putting a lot of people in rehab beds for marijuana who don't need it, and someone who needs it for meth or alcohol or something really devastating doesn't get that bed. Is that something you've found in your experience?
Absolutely. And treatment beds are an extremely valuable resource, and we shouldn't be utilizing them for anybody other than drug addicts. And, my experience with marijuana users, I know there's some people that become addicted to marijuana, but there's not many of them around. I haven't run into a whole lot of them. So, I think drug courts are just, the concept's great and they do some things, but I wouldn't be utilizing the resources of a drug court dealing with marijuana. And once we legalize marijuana, that's going to remove a lot of these people from the system anyway.
You know, I'm really thankful that you've got a chapter in here, learning from the past. And I think that's one of the things that could inform our drug policy a lot better is if we took a look at some of our past mistakes, namely the prohibition of alcohol that we went through. However, a lot of times our opponents will say, well, you know, alcohol prohibition was different. Alcohol has a long culture. Alcohol was used in all the countries around the world, and we were just the only one trying to ban it. So do you think there can be a fair analogy made between alcohol prohibition and marijuana prohibition, given that they were slightly or significantly different?
I don't think you can find a better analogy than the end of alcohol prohibition. One historian, who I quote in the book, writing at the end of alcohol prohibition, said that when the federal government imposed alcohol prohibition, it took a giant slice of the economy and put it into the illegal business, taking that revenue from the hands of farmers, truck drivers, distributors, breweries, wineries, restaurants and bars, and moved those billions of dollars into the hands of thugs and murderers like Al Capone. And when they reversed prohibition, the exact opposite happened. So here we are. We've now got a big economic pie that's in the hands of the cartels, thugs and murderers, just as he described them, related to alcohol prohibition. What we need to do is reverse that process, take them back out of the hands of the illegal market and put it into the legal regulated market.
You also write about the addiction to seriously addicting drugs like methamphetamine, cocaine, heroin, alcohol, nicotine even. But you write of the market forces behind that addiction. And when I was reading that, I thought a lot about how our opponents fear. They make the analogy of big tobacco, that we'd have a big marijuana. So do you fear those kind of market forces with marijuana? Do you fear big marijuana corporations, if you will, trying to have more marijuana smokers, trying to peddle it to kids?
You know, I don't particularly fear that. And, you know, as we move into this stuff, there's going to be problems that arise and alterations that are going to need to be made. But what we got to compare it to is what are we looking at now? Is it going to be an improvement over the system that we have now? And I'm really not that concerned about it. 40% of Americans have used marijuana, and I know there's the belief that if we legalize marijuana, there's going to be a whole millions of people who are going to rush out there and try to get it who've been constrained by the legal system. I just don't believe that. I think what we'd see is a small blip in marijuana usage and kind of back down to some kind of norm. I just don't see a huge new problem as they describe it.
Howard Rotz is the author of this new book, Drugs, Crime, and Violence, From Trafficking to Treatment. You can pick it up on Amazon. You can pick it up on barnesandnoble.com, I saw. And Howard, you've got your own domain. Is that right? Can you give people, some contact information if they'd like to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I've got a website, and it's Howard, HOWARD, RAHTZ, one word, .com. And I'm blogging on that site, and there's also information about the book and where it can be purchased. So I'd love to have more people visit the website.
Yes, howardrotz.com. We've got that in our chat room, and we've already got some folks in Georgia and from Ohio in our chat room that are very interested in the topic. And are you also aligned with Law Enforcement Against Prohibition?
I am. I'm an active member of LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. And, as you think about all the various groups that are discussing, arguing about drug policy, I feel like LEAP is the most credible group out there. We are people who, have been in the trenches of the drug war, and most of us saying enough's enough and it's time to move on.
Yeah, it's definitely powerful voices. I got to work with Diane Goldstein out in Atlanta this last weekend, another great Leap speaker. And every time one of you ends up on the evening news, I can just hear the sound of minds changing all across that city and state. Thank you, Howard, for writing this book, Drugs, Crime, and Violence, From Trafficking to Treatment. Lots of great info for reformers to learn from this. Check it out at howardrotz.com. And Howard, thanks for joining us here on the Russ Belville Show. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, and keep up the good work.
Oh, thank you very much. All right, when we come back, we're going to take a little bit more of a look at that Southern Cannabis Reform Conference that we've been talking about all throughout the show today. We've got the lovely Georgia mom for marijuana herself in her chat room, Sharon Ravert, on the TV news in Atlanta, Leap's Diane Goldstein, and a guy who used to have a mustache. Stay tuned. We'll show you that right after this.
The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
Have you considered medical marijuana? Double-blind, peer-reviewed studies have found cannabinoid therapies to be successful in treating the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, brain cancer, chronic pain, diabetes mellitus, dystonia, fibromyalgia, GI disorders, hepatitis C, HIV/AIDS, hypertension, incontinence, MRSA, multiple sclerosis, osteoporosis, pruritus, rheumatoid arthritis, sleep apnea, and Tourette's syndrome, as well as anecdotal evidence in suggesting relief from anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress, plus reduction in the need for narcotic painkillers. Side effects from medical marijuana can include euphoria, relaxation, anxiety, panic reaction, paranoia, tachycardia, dry eyes, dry mouth, concentration and reaction time impairments, appetite increase, and in some U.S. states, arrest and incarceration. But medical marijuana is non-toxic and cannot cause overdose. Medical marijuana, it's not for everyone, but ask your doctor if medical marijuana may be right for you.
Cannabinoids and health.
Cannabinoids.
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 Why am I having trouble saying that?
Cannabinoids.
Jeez.
Cannabinoids.
What a gift.
Flame on if you can. You're looking for the dope weed. Fire it up. Flame on if you can. You're looking for the dope weed. Bully boy's a man. Flame on if you can. You're looking for the dope weed.
You want answers? I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended a Shaolin temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical Rant.
Well, folks, like you are well aware of by now, I was out in Atlanta, Georgia this last weekend. Actually, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. 5 fantastic days. It was part vacation, part work, and all fun, let me tell you. First of all, on Thursday, we went to the state capitol in Atlanta, and that's the statue and the dome there behind me, you can see. We went to the state capitol in Atlanta for a Cannabis Awareness Day. We were joined by Adrian Bernal. He's with the Caravan for Peace and Handkerchiefs for Peace projects. Also, it warmed my heart to know he's on what is apparently the only AM talk radio progressive station all in Spanish progressive talk radio station. So he was there with the Caravan for Peace, and they lay out these handkerchiefs along the wall. Each handkerchief represents the death or deaths of people in Mexico from the drug war. They're all embroidered, and that was just a very solemn, stunning sight to see. We'll have some pictures uploaded soon enough. Also, we had the cannabis quilt from Moms for Marijuana laid out. it was originally 18 foot by 24 foot, but I think it's bigger than that now. It's quite a bit bigger. And you'll see in some of the video, you'll see some of the panels. They got panels for all 50 states, also starting a new unity quilt for supporters of marijuana reform that we need to get a quilt built. Anybody out there in the 420 radio listening audience knows how to sew? If you could make us a 420 radio or Russ Belville show quilt piece that has our website and our logo on it, it's about... What was the dimensions? Well, Georgia Mom can tell you. I think it was 2.5 by 2.5. Anyway, we'll do that later, but it was just a beautiful display out there at the Capitol. Gorgeous sunny day, blue skies, not a cloud in the sky, and 3 major news networks showing up to film it. We had ABC, CBS, and Fox all there. Now, ABC and CBS put their videos up. I could not find one from Fox, but let me play the first one for you to show you what an amazing success this was. Not only just the earned media coverage, but the event itself on Friday and Saturday, the conference that we had, Southern Cannabis Reform Conference. Diane Goldstein was there from Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. Sabrina Fendrick from Normal Women's Alliance. Jamie Haas from LEAP was there. So many people, and we'll have plenty of their presentations and speeches throughout the rest of this week. But for now, let me get to this Atlanta Channel 2 ABC News featuring James Bell and Sharon Ravert, Georgia activists.
The push is on to legalize marijuana in Georgia. Several different groups who are part of a nationwide movement spent time at the Georgia Capitol today trying to convince lawmakers. Channel 2's Lori Geary joins us live from the state capitol, where members of this movement declare it Cannabis Day here in Georgia. Lori.
That's right, Jovita. Several supporters here say that smoking a joint is like drinking a glass of wine. And they say if you legalize the drug in Georgia, you'd free up a lot of prison beds for hardened criminals and bring some much needed relief to those suffering with painful diseases.
We believe the time is right. We believe time is now to start looking at the marijuana issue and come up with some solution other than putting people in prison for smoking a joint.
We caught up with James Bell in the hallways of the state capitol as he lobbied lawmakers to medicalize and decriminalize marijuana. He admits it's a tough fight in a conservative state like Georgia.
It is a sort of a taboo issue for many lawmakers, and but we're trying to break the ice.
We are advocates for protecting our children.
The group Moms for Marijuana displayed a so-called cannabis quilt. Member Sharon Ravert says her 19-year-old daughter was arrested after drug agents searched her home for 3.5 hours and found 1.5 grams of pot.
2 years and all kinds of, lawyers, and $15,000 later, we have spent all of the money that we have saved for her to go to college. We have to look at the cost of those children that may not ever get a job. It stays with you forever.
People that use marijuana tend to be, relaxed and mellow and don't cause a lot of problems.
Russ Belville, who calls himself the voice of the marijuana nation and has his own radio talk show, says 18 states recognize the medicinal benefits of the drug for folks who suffer from diseases like cancer and glaucoma. He says Georgia patients are not being offered the best treatments for pain management.
Marijuana is non-toxic. You cannot overdose from it, and it's far, far less dependence-causing than something like OxyContin. It should be the first thing that people with serious illnesses are given a chance to try.
But it appears Georgia is not ready for legalized pot anytime soon. James Bell told me that 2 lawmakers promised him a study committee on this issue, but that bill has yet to be filed this session. He wouldn't tell me the names of those 2 lawmakers because he says it's such a sensitive issue. Reporting live from the state capitol, Lori Geary, Channel 2 Action News.
More details now. 18 states and Washington, D.C. have enacted laws to legalize medical marijuana. Among the most recent states to do this, Connecticut and Massachusetts just last year.
Yeah, those marijuana stories trip me up sometimes, too. This was, as far as I'm concerned, one of the best news coverages of a press conference for a marijuana group I've ever seen. You had Georgia Care with James Bell in the legislature, in the halls, looking sharp, speaking intelligently to it. You got Sharon Ravert from Georgia Moms for Marijuana, from Peachtree Normal, out there representing and bringing the human face to it, the heart and soul of the issue. And if I may, toot my own horn, I have rarely exhibited such a monster soundbite on TV as that one that I just had. I pat myself on the back on that one. That was one of my favorites of all time. There was another news story there. The CBS News was there as well. Let's see if we can get that video for you from CBS Atlanta. And I'm not sure if it's got an ad. So yeah, it's got one of those March Madness ads. So I gotta pause that first, but we'll bring you that. This one features Diane Goldstein from LEAP, who is another phenomenal speaker and got some fantastic sound bites in with this activist or this reporter. Check it out.
There's a new message coming from the state capitol: decriminalize marijuana. Today, supporters of legalizing the drug say National Cannabis Awareness Day is the perfect time for lawmakers to look at alternative ways of regulating marijuana. CBS Atlanta's Craig Bell talked with supporters. So, Craig, what do these lawmakers have to say about this push?
Well, Jaquetta, at this point, very little. I've talked to lawmakers all day, but no one wanted to go on record to tackle the subject. One lawmaker telling me off camera that, in truth, that this is really not on anyone's radar. But the opposite should be true, according to people who are pushing this pot. It would appear that almost every day that police in Georgia are busting people for growing, selling, or smoking marijuana.
It's time to move forward.
Retired California Police Lieutenant Diana Goldstein represents law enforcement against prohibition and says it's time for Georgia to take a different approach to its war on drugs.
It takes away critical resources that could be better used for infrastructure, education, job creation, things that actually would change our communities for the better.
Goldstein spent 20 plus years of her police career enforcing the very laws she is now fighting.
It's the most expensive whack-a-mole game in law enforcement.
Goldstein tells me she isn't surprised that lawmakers aren't standing in line to weigh in on this controversy.
What they're concerned with is being reelected. What they fear is that their constituents don't believe as they do.
The state of Georgia was one of the first in the nation to enact a medical marijuana bill in 1980.
James Bell is with Georgia Care, a group that wants to tweak and in some cases abolish state laws to protect cannabis users. Bell has lobbied conservatives and liberals on the issue and believes the political will exists to reform state laws, but only if the push to legalize is taken in small steps.
And so what we want to do is have a study committee to study what we can do in Georgia concerning medical marijuana. 18 states in this nation have legalized for medical use.
Now, supporters of the pod tell me that almost 1 million people in the state of Georgia use marijuana every year, and they tell me that sooner or later that lawmakers will have to deal with this issue. Reporting live downtown at the state capitol tonight, Craig Bell, CBS Atlanta News.
It's nice to know that we're supporters of the pot now. But yes, supporters of the pot, we do have a serious problem with that. But that was the news in Atlanta. And what was really nice about this is it was shoehorned around another story that was going down in Atlanta, Georgia at just around the same time. The ABC News channel ran this story. And let me see if I can pull this up for you, of a person being framed here for
the man
marijuana.
being arrested in this surveillance video claims an officer planted drugs on him. The suspect says the video proves he's innocent. And now late this afternoon, we received word that the charges are being dropped only hours after Channel 2 Action News started asking some questions. But the DeKalb County Solicitor General says dismissing the case has nothing to do with the video. And new at 6, Channel 2's Tom Jones live at the DeKalb County Courthouse with the reason the charges are being dropped. Tom.
Well, Justin, this case was on the trial calendar tomorrow, but the solicitor's office called me and said the charges will be dismissed because the alleged marijuana can't be located.
Whoops!
The defendant's attorney thinks this video is why he no longer faces jail time.
And you see him pitch something behind me.
Alfonso Ellaby says this surveillance video shows a DeKalb County police officer planting marijuana on him. We've spotlighted where Ellaby says the officer threw the drugs down.
And then he stands up and he yells, "Look what you tried to throw."
Ellaby says his nightmare began when he stopped to speak to someone who was sitting in this black SUV. He says an officer arrived and arrested the driver for drugs.
I was searched twice.
Ellaby says no drugs were found on him and he was told to sit down. A female officer stood guard over him for several minutes. His attorney says you then see the officer call her over to the truck and he circles back.
I was shocked.
Sylvia Waters says you see the officer plant the drugs, pick them up and reposition them. Waters says in the police report, the officer says he saw Ellaby throw the drugs down.
It didn't happen. It simply just did not happen.
I called the DeKalb County Solicitor's Office about the allegations. They wouldn't discuss the video, but said the charges would be dismissed because police couldn't locate the marijuana. Another one of Ellaby's attorneys thinks the video is why the case is being dismissed.
Well, you think. So there you go. That's some news from Atlanta. And to have our press conference and our coverage of marijuana legalization happening at the same time as that story, and another huge story of about 10 different Atlanta cops indicted on corruption charges, selling and bribing and offering to kill people. Oh, my God. We're going to win in the South, people.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at RadicalRuss.com.
That's all the time we got, but take my word for it, the South will blaze again. For Brian the Red, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining it. The 420 drug test is coming up next, right here in Hour 2. Stay tuned. And until next time, take care of each other, tokers.